If you have ADHD, you don't just have low levels of dopamine, you have low levels of norepinephrine. And if you don't understand what those neurotransmitters do for you and how they work together or they work against each other, then you're going to keep spiraling out and not understanding how to work with your own brain. So let's break it down so you can understand how to manage your life and your ADHD a little bit better. And real quick, this video is going to be a bit longer, but I'm telling you, if you have ADHD, it's going to help you. So save it, come back to it, stem, go around and do like your chores or something, speed up the video, whatever you need to do. Just, I'm telling you, you need to know this stuff. Let's start with good old dopamine, since we hear so much about it. Dopamine is more than just your feel-good neurotransmitter. It also helps with movement, motivation, attention, mood, and decision making. What is it like when your dopamine levels are balanced? You have motivation and drive. You have energy. You feel like you can accomplish things. You're able to feel a sense of pleasure and reward by getting compliments, by winning a game, by schmecks, by having good food. Dopamine helps with your focus and concentration, so you're actually able to pay attention. It also helps with movement, so you'll have smooth and controlled movement. Dopamine helps with mood regulation, so your moods will be a little bit more stable. And learning things and retaining memory become a lot easier when your dopamine levels are balanced. So now that we know what it's like to have a balanced level of dopamine, what is it like when you have a deficient level of dopamine? Low motivation and apathy. An inability to feel pleasure from the things that you used to, like having schmecks, like eating that food that you enjoy, like playing those card games, getting compliments. Fatigue, lack of energy, brain fog, procrastination, depression or depression-like symptoms. Your muscles might be stiff, you might be slow in your movement, you might be clumsy, you might start feeling a lot more cravings or feel more involved in addictive behavior, wanting to use substances, wanting to get into chaotic situations, eating a bunch of sugar, overeating, binge scrolling, binge watching TV, things like that. And since dopamine plays a part in your sleep-wake cycle, you might have problems sleeping. Seeing as we always prioritize talking about dopamine when it comes to ADHD, then you probably already knew a lot about that. So what's the deal with this norepinephrine thing? When you have balanced levels of norepinephrine, you feel alert, you feel focused, emotionally steady, and capable of taking on new things and just being able to regulate your stress, basically. You also have more steady energy, your heart rate is a lot more stable, you sleep better. Since norepinephrine is what regulates your survival response, you're a lot calmer, you're a lot less anxious, you're not in survival mode as often, and you're able to regulate your emotions better and handle stress better. I have to say this twice because it's important. You're more decisive, you communicate a lot more clearly and more effectively. And since norepinephrine helps you to regulate your fight or flight, your survival response, it's also going to help you regulate and work with your dopamine so that you're not always seeking this constant stimulation. You don't feel bored every 5 seconds. You don't feel the need to go after addictions, chaotic situations, doom scroll, and things like that because it's working with your dopamine and it's helping regulate you out of fight or flight. When your norepinephrine levels are low, you're going to experience brain fog, low motivation, anxiety, depression, lack of alertness, dizziness, low blood pressure, fatigue, a poor stress response, poor circulation, and poor movement. So how is norepinephrine and dopamine connected to each other? Dopamine is the precursor to norepinephrine, so that means dopamine is the spark and norepinephrine is pretty much the fuel that keeps you going. So let's say that you're starting a task, dopamine might be like, okay, let's do this, and then norepinephrine is going to keep you focused enough to actually go through with doing that task. So if your dopamine levels are low, you're not even going to want to bother starting that task, and if your norepinephrine levels are low, then you're not going to follow through with that task once you've started. I'm sure you've never experienced that as someone who has ADHD. So to recap, dopamine gives you that sense of pleasure, hope, and curiosity, and then the norepinephrine helps you respond to whatever it is you're doing without feeling totally stressed and while feeling capable enough to go through with it. They work together. So if the dopamine is low, you're not going to start it. If the norepinephrine is low, you're going to freak out and you're not going to want to finish it. Let me tell you why it's important to understand how these two work together. If you're out there doing anything you can to seek dopamine, whether that's through binge eating, chaotic situations, chaotic relationships, substance abuse, whatever it might be, then your brain's not going to bother doing anything that you need to do for yourself because it already has the dopamine. If you're only focused on getting your dopamine levels up and you're not focused on regulating your norepinephrine as well, you're only doing half of the process. And a lot of the issue with that is a lot of our cheap dopamine seeking behaviors, whether that's binge scrolling, that's binge eating, that's substance abuse, that's chaotic relationships or chaotic and dangerous situations, whatever it might be, you're going to raise your levels of dopamine and norepinephrine, but they're going to go from a low to way too high. And that's why you're getting anxious. You're going into survival mode. You're not able to follow through with things. Your mood is going all over the place and your body is literally breaking down. And that's what's going to cause you from going into these burnouts and then back to up, and then to a burnout. And it's just going to be this endless cycle until you learn how to manage the two and understand the two by educating yourself, as well as choosing better sources to regulate your dopamine and norepinephrine. And if you're getting your dopamine from cheap sources like binge binge eating, binge scrolling, chaotic situations, whatever it might be, not only are you getting that high level of dopamine and that high level of norepinephrine, but since your dopamine's real high, yes, you might start a situation or a goal or whatever, but you're not going to be able to sustain it because your norepinephrine is way too high, and now you're at an anxious level. You're not able to regulate your moods. You're not able to get out of fight or flight. So you might get the dopamine, but you're getting way too much norepinephrine, which is keeping you from going after the things that you want to. It's also keeping you from being able to think rationally because you are literally in fight or flight because your norepinephrine levels are way too high. You see what I'm saying when I say that they work together?
So how do we balance the two levels of these neurotransmitters?
So glad you asked. Let's talk about sustainable ways to balance both norepinephrine and dopamine together as well as separately. Sustainable things to help balance both norepinephrine and dopamine. Cold exposure, moderate to intense exercise, going out and getting sunlight, especially right in the morning. L-tyrosine, either through a supplement or through food. It's a precursor to both norepinephrine and dopamine. Foods that have this are turkey, chicken, eggs, banana, and almonds. Novelty, meaning try new things and challenge yourself. Deep and restful sleep and a consistent sleeping schedule. I know this one is hard, but I'm telling you, if you practice, you'll be able to do at least something with it. Some things to balance your dopamine. Celebrating small wins and giving yourself credit. Dopamine boosting foods, so anything that has antioxidants, B6, magnesium. Try to reduce your processed sugar and try to manage any type of stimulant crashes or manage your stimulants if you're drinking coffee or energy drinks. Meditation, mindfulness, gratitude, radical acceptance. Create a vision board of exciting goals. Dopamine also skyrockets whenever you gamify tasks. How to boost norepinephrine. Nervous system regulating techniques and body somatics. Practicing short intentional focus, like reading 2 pages of a book a day and just building your way up from there. Not only is that going to boost your norepinephrine, but it's also going to strengthen your stamina towards your focus and concentration. Try to eat more protein-rich foods. Practicing physical alertness, mindfulness, and embodiment practices. Oh, and for both of them, you might want to get some supplements like vitamin D, omega-3s, a B complex. If this is your flavor, consider going to a psychiatrist or a doctor and consider getting on ADHD meds if that's what you want to do. Anyway, I know that was a lot, but I'm so proud of you for staying till the end of the video. You should celebrate that. That is a natural source of dopamine. Celebrate yourself, but also balance your norepinephrine too. So anyway, I hope that helps at least one person. My name is Sarah. I'm your favorite self-experimenting coach or companion, and I help get people reacquainted with who they most authentically are. You're an amazing person, and I hope you have the best day.